Peppa in space. It was Space Day at Playgroup. Peppa and her friends were very excited. Does anyone know what space is? Asked Madame Gazelle. Space is the physical universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere, said Edmund the elephant. Edmund was a bit of a clever clugs. That's right, Edmund, said Madame Gazelle. And today we're going to talk about something you find in space. The moon? Shouted all the children. Yes, said Madame Gazelle. Dog. It is possible, replied Madame Gazelle, but you would need to take oxygen, water, and lots of other things with you. Can you jump in muddy puddles on the moon? Asked Peppa. No, said Madame Gazelle. There is no rain to make puddles. What can you do on the moon then? Asked Peppa. You'll soon find out, said Madame Gazelle, because today we are going to the moon, shouted Pedro Pony. Not exactly, said Madame Gazelle. We're going to the Space Museum. Oh, sighed the children. At the museum, you would train to be astronauts, said Madame Gazelle, and see what it is like to walk on the moon. Wow, gasped the children. The Space Museum. Really, we should be going there in a moon buggy, said Danny Dog, not a bus. How long until we get there? Asked Peppa. As long as it takes you to finish your apple, replied Miss Rabbit. I've finished my apple, said Susie Sheep. Does that mean we're there? How about we sing a song for Miss Rabbit, suggested Madame Gazelle. Something like, but before Madame Gazelle could finish, all the children started to sing, we're going to the moon, we'll get there soon. And they sang it to Miss Rabbit all the way to the museum. When they arrived at the museum, the children were met by a real astronaut, Grampy Rabbit. Hello there, fellow astronauts, he boomed. Our space training mission today will take us to the moon. The ride may be bumpy, but it will be worth it when you get there to see what it's like to walk on the moon. Hooray, cheered the children. Spacesuits and boots as quickly as they could. It's time to hop on board our spacecraft, called Grampy Rabbit. When they were ready, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, cheered all the little astronauts together. Grampy Rabbit and the children zoomed off into their training mission. Grampy Rabbit told the children all about the different planets in the solar system. There's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the dwarf planet Pluto, he said. Robots have landed on Mars, but no one else has done so yet. George was listening very carefully. Mars, he whispered to himself. I've landed on the moon, said Grampy Rabbit. Now, my little astronauts, it's time for you to see what it's like to walk on the moon. Just take one small step out of the spacecraft, and Peppa and all her friends took giant leaps out of the spacecraft, wearing Grampy Rabbit's anti-gravity rubber bands. Whee! Fun bouncing up and down with their anti-gravity rubber bands, they sang a song over and over and over again. Listen to our space tune, we're walking on the moon. Wow, gasped Peppa, bouncing over Madame Gazelle's head. Walking on the moon is great, but jumping up and down on it is even better. It's time to get back down to Earth now, children, called Grampy Rabbit. Oh, sighed the children. When they arrived back on Earth, the children were sad. Remember, children, your adventure isn't really over, said Grampy Rabbit. It's just beginning. If you keep training, you can all be real astronauts, like me, one day. Yay, we're all going to the moon, sang the children, and they sang it on the bus all the way back to Playgroup. Space is amazing, Daddy, said Peppa that night. I want to be an astronaut so I can jump up and down on the moon every day. But George had set his sights on somewhere else. Mars, he whispered. Ah, said Daddy Pig, are you going to be the first piggy to walk on Mars, George? George nodded his head and smiled. That night, George dreamt he had gone into space with Peppa, and they were the first little piggies ever to jump up and down on the moon.